What's up everybody, George T from The Wagon here. On this week's video, we're going to go into detail something you've seen in my videos before. We're going to install a bay window tank into a split window bus. Products that I'm using: Simple Green, 100%, not diluted. And then my secondary bottle he's going to be rinsing with, this is just a mixture of Dawn dishwashing soap and water, heavy on the Dawn dishwashing soap, and that helps me get really clean results. Very stoked with it. Just makes it a lot easier when you're putting stuff back in, that you're not getting filthy while you're doing it. We're going to start trying to fit that tank in. Gulfport West 6871. I've done them before. It requires a little bit of modification of this area here. Taking the stalker out, going with the bay window tank. So things we have to do in house to do that is we make a bracket for the bottom, a breather that mimics the 68 to 71 breather system with a single outlet, and that's going to run all the way up my neck and dump into the fill over there. This is the material I'm making my breather out of. This is 3/16 tubing, aluminum, perfect for making something like a breather because you can bend it all by hand, or when you need a really tight radius you can get a tube bender in on it. So here's a closer look at the flat bar brackets that I make. So my material is 1 inch by, so that's 1 inch wide by 1/8 inch in thickness flat bar. You can buy this by the lineal foot in some shops, like a place like McFadden I use. They sell like a 3 foot, a 4 foot, or you can buy an 8 foot stick of it. This total for both of these is about 7 inches each. You'll cut a little bit off once you get done. So about 14 inches, so get you a 1.5 foot of it. I purchased these. They are square nuts. VW, if you notice, most of their captive nuts are square nuts welded in. So I do the same thing. If you don't have the ability to weld, if you're not equipped to, a nut and bolt combo will work here, so don't worry about it. All right, so here's the dimensions. My height is 3 1/4. I'm an 1 1/8 flap going each direction, and I have an 8.5 millimeter hole drilled in each one of them. That's going to allow the hardware to go through. So 1 1/8 flap, 1 1/8 flap, 3 3/4 height. Now this is going to sit here on the tank. Your strap's going to come down to it and bolt to it. So in the car it'll be bolted here, and then that is the extension you're going to need for the additional height of a bay window tank top to bottom. Another item that we got to make is the fill neck. So because this was a 66, 67 tank. They have a slightly larger capacity. I don't want to use this as my sacrificial lamb. I have one out back that has a bullet hole in it, so we're just going to lop the neck off of that one and then use it. This is going to be our sacrificial neck right there. We're going to be taken out of there. I'm going to use just a little bit of felt right here. You can buy this in sheets from any sort of fabric store. Heck, I think even Walmart. Even Walmart will sell this. Cut yourself off a strip about 2 inches wide. We're going to take that 2 inch wide strip and we're going to glue it to the area that we've modified here. So when the tank vibrates from driving, it's not going to wear a hole through it. Going to use the Super 77 for that as well. Then we'll cut our foam, or I'm sorry, we'll cut our fiber pads to size, get those glued on as well. My trick for gluing the felt in, this is going to fit here. Flop it back one size, put it over, fold it over one way. Your spray pattern for glue is going to be this entire area here, because you want to spray the back side of this and the area you're adhering to with any sort of adhesive. So we're going to get it sprayed out, and then you're just going to flip that back over here. The two glued edges are going to stick to each other very well. I cannot see it from the front here, and that's what we want. I want it to be invisible, like you wouldn't even know it's there. Any of this excess that we got over here at this point in time can be cleaned up pretty easily with soap and water. You may have to get like a little bit of WD-40, or possibly I use denatured alcohol for cleaning up stuff like that as well. I've cut my fiber padding into 2x2 squares. A little rectangular. I'm off a little bit, it's okay. So we're going to glue them at each connection point. You can see the original ones were just little 1 inch strips. We're going a little bit bigger, 2 inch, just for additional padding there. We also have our seal to install around here that we'll be adding as well. So I'm going to do the same process here. We're going to glue both sides, put it down, get my 4 bases put in. We'll get this part sealed up, and then we have a opportunity to install the tank after we've done a few things out here. We've got our 4 base pads glued in. We've got our protective felt here, where we've modified to fit the bay window tank. Now we're going to stick that guy in place. Got myself a piece of masking paper for this. I don't want to get glue on any of the suspension underneath there if I don't need to. Now you can see around here, this is not a show car, but we still treat it with the respect of one, as you should any customer's car. Same paper we had up there, I just fold it in half, put it down here. This is my dolly, I don't care if it gets glue on it. And we're going to make sure that one side of this gets glue on it. It doesn't need a ton. We've got glue on both edges now. Get you back up there. Excellent. So now we've got everything prepared on the body for the tank installation. Things we have to do to the exterior is make our breather. Once again, I mimic the 68 breather setup that is on there originally. We got to install the sending unit, and we got to install the wiring. You see that right there, those scrapes? That's how tight this fit is going in and out. You cannot have wires dangling over the top of this. You must run them around. You're going to have your sending unit wire here, that we're going to use an original VW plastic connections. And then we're going to have the ground, which actually gets grounded right here, factory, but we can't run the wire up here unless we want to cut that wire. So it's going to come this way and then come around and then screw up to this point right here. Your sending unit, the wiring itself goes off of that spade there. For your ground, you're going to put an eyelet. So this connection will be eyelet, and most likely about 2.5 feet of brown wire. We've got our sending unit wire. You always ground your sending unit itself. I showed you earlier where that hole is on there. Well, you hit that with the heat gun, it'll shrink that. That's a built-in heat shrink on there. So we have our actual sending unit wiring, and that terminates to this here. So it's going to be able to, I'll be able to plug in the original sending unit wire coming off the main loom to power that up. You don't have access. When this is in there, like I said, you see how it scrapes? You can't get your hand back there. Good luck if you think you can. So that's actually why I tape these in place here, which you've seen on earlier videos like with dunkles and whatnot. We tape that in place so the wires aren't here to get thrashed. First time I ever did one, that's what happened, was I ripped my wiring up just trying to put the tank in. It was a mess. So now I know, tape these off to the side so they hang out. Once we get it installed, this will be pulled up to the center. It'll break the tape, no issue. We'll put the screw in here in the center on the bus. This will plug into the sending unit, and then we know we're good to go. And I've already tested this to make sure that it is ohming out when it goes up and down. All right, we have our 4 pads put onto the tank, and they're glued in place so they will not move. We got our wiring set up. We already have our breeder line made, and I can get that in once it's actually installed. So we're ready to put this sucker in the car. Get your straps, shoot them off to the side. I have this one sitting on this wheel well lip, and this one here is sitting on that oil, or I'm sorry, the fuel drain line coming off of your overfill over there. We're gonna bring the tank in. You'll see how tight it is. She squeezes, and she squeezes hard right there. Excellent. We're hitting all of our points that we glued our pads onto. My gasket back here at the fill is still intact. So I think we are good to go. Our straps back out around to the front. Make sure you're hooked over that backside properly. Don't assume anything. Feel for yourself. Make sure she's there. All right. And just like that, we're almost there. I put a little clamp here. Just to make sure she's held in place until we get everything finalized on it. Alrighty. I am happy with that. Alright, we're getting ready to put our extension brackets on. I got an M8 by 125 by 16 here. That's going to be holding at the base here. I'm using a spring washer, like a wave washer for it. We're doing that on both sides. Once we get it in place, then we'll get our hardware that's going to do the extra pull down to it. Tank is technically installed now. Now we need to add our breather line to it, which is going to go all the way up with the neck. I also have to go outside and cut the neck off that other tank out there and get all that stuff set up. This is our sending unit wire. We're going to be connecting it to this, so I may shorten this one, bring it up a little bit higher in there, since I do have access to get my hand up here and put my VW style connection from Mossberg West there. Still accessible. My GoPro keeps overheating. You see we're at 113. We're in a steel building, no insulation. Let's go look at what our temps are in here. Mind you, this is right next to a swamper, so it feels beautiful in this part of the shop. Swamper blowing there. And that's what we're reading on indoor temperatures. So it's hot. It's beyond hot in here. But we got to get this done. This video is coming out tomorrow. I got my breather line. I'm using fuel line as my breather line. You want anything that's going to be in your fuel system needs to be compatible with fuel. So this is the 7mm German line. I've already got it onto my line here. I'm going to snip it about there, and then we're going to put it onto the tank. Let's get that right, eh? We get our breather line inside there. It's every time, in every video. That thing's got a blip at me. It's unreal. Alright, so we get this line in there, and we're going to secure it down in a couple spots with some zip ties around this strap here to make sure it doesn't do this while you're driving. I may even cut a piece of tubing, or I'm sorry, a piece of hose, and lace it over this, just so where it rests up against the tank, it's got something to dampen the vibration. The end of it over here will get an extension added to it. This is going to get an extension added to it and run all the way up to our stock fill up there. This drain hose, I'm going to have it dump right over that drain hose. So if you overfill, whatever, acceleration, whatever's going to make this thing burp up fuel, it will go into this catch up here instead of into your engine compartment. This is the German line on here. So it's like Chinese finger cuffs. The harder you pull, the less it wants to come off. So I feel confident enough not to have to put a clamp on this. This camera's smoking hot again, so it's probably going to shut off mid-filming this. This is the ground that's actually connected to the sending unit back there. This is my actual sending unit wire. We're going to shorten this up. And I'm going to shorten it up on my side. Leave the factory one intact since it has that nice black sheathing on it. And we'll be able to run up there, put a couple zip ties on this band here, and have my connection point up here. At the same time, I'm going to address this. I'm going to make sure we put a couple pieces of hoses on that to shut that dude up, and a couple zip ties in place to hold it there. Just because I'm going to shorten this up doesn't mean I'm going to waste it. I'm going to hang on to this. It's got a good open barrel crimp connection already on it, ready to go on something else. Might be a nice little ground for something else. Right tool for the job. These Paladin pliers with your open barrel crimp connections that go from your 18 to 22, 14 to 16, 10 to 12. If you're using the original German fittings like I do, these are a godsend. Worth the money. Alright. Slip that guy back on there. I buy these from Mossberg West, these one-on-ones. They also sell the Ys and the 4-ways. They're very handy to have when you're adding additional wiring to the car, or you're doing something like this where it's a little out of the norm. This would have a lot of trouble reaching that. And you got your little extension on here. Just helps out a lot with these little plastic connectors. And I think they're more attractive than a butt connector, that's for sure. Alright. You'll get a couple zip ties. Put that back there. Get some zip ties and get that wound up there so it looks nice and clean when we're done. Also, something you want to take in consideration, you have a big fan right here when your motor is running, and that fan has a lot of suction. If you have loose wires that are available to get to it, they will. So that's why you'd want something like this zip tied in place. Make sure it's secure, the fan can't suck it in, because that right there would go right into a fan. When you're running zip ties, try and keep them going in the same direction. Aesthetically, it looks better. Mission accomplished there. Pretty sure we won't be grabbing that wire. Flush cutters too. Buy a set. Last thing you want is any of that plastic hanging off of that. So I put a piece of 5/16 fuel line in here. I'm going to give it a cut down, like a mohawk cut right down the middle. So this is what I'll use as my shielding on the breather line I just put in there. I've already got it split. Now I'm going to cut into a couple 1-inch chunks, and we're going to put them around here, around our breather line, and then also get it secured in a couple spots with some zip ties. I'm not setting up time lapses because my camera is literally shutting off every time I do from heat. So I will see how much of this we can actually document. That's one piece of rubber. and one zip tie. And look at that, how much we eliminated already. We're going to put a couple more pieces of rubber on that back part of the hose. With that, if you're going to use a donor tank, make sure you check out the condition of your fill, and you want to make sure a cap can seat on that. It's not chewed up, it's not dented, smashed, anything like that. If you have a pipe cutter like this, try and use this to cut your neck off, especially if your tank is fresh and has fuel. If you go hitting this thing with a grinder or something, you set a spark off in there, this is going to explode. Don't even question it. Fill it up with water, fill it with welding gas, do something with it if you're actually going to use a power tool to cut it off. I have never done this before. I'm just going to give it a shot and see how it does. So you guys are going to go on this journey with me on this one. My bad, I didn't record that, but I did do that with a pipe cutter. I like that. It puts a little bit of angle on it, so the hose is going to slip on real easy. I'll take my deburring tool, hit that inside up real quick, probably get that whole neck blasted and painted, which is very simple. It's going to occupy the space that it used to occupy before, with a rubber connection in between the two. My breather line will be matching the same there. I'm going to be using this rubber gasket off his old one and his old cap on that new tank, on that new neck. We're going to punch a hole in this for the breather line that we're about to make. That finishes off our breather. So we put that nice hook on it, just so I'm doing that in the time lapse. So this piece will go in here. I'm going to punch a hole in that gasket, and this is going to be my breather line. If it ever overflows, that's the factory overflow right there. And just flow right into that and drain where it would at factory. Alright, I'm going to punch a hole into this. I got this snap-on gasket punch kit. We're going to pop a hole through there. I misspoke earlier, this line is 3/8, not 3/16. So I'm going to pop that hole right through that dude there. So when this is installed, that has a home to go to. Make sure if you're using a tool like this, you're doing it on wood. If you do this on a hard surface, all you do is dull that out, and it's a one-time use. You do it on wood, you use it over and over again. You hear that loud tick and you know you made it all the way to the wood. One nice little clean hole going through it, even after it's been installed. I'll be able to slip this dude right in there. And this actually holds it in place for me. There will be a couple of zip ties going around the neck also that hold in place, but this is the main support for it. And once it's in the hole, I can actually bend and tweak this line to where it aims directly over that hole and it stays stationary. Mine's been in my bus for several years now. I've never had an issue with it. This is going to be used for our fill neck now. Wolfsburg West, part number 211201125. It requires 2 of these. My customer unfortunately purchased one, so I'll have to order another one on Monday, but 211255463. These are the clamps that hold on the hose. Hose goes, this end will go to my tank. This end is going to go to the fill hose we're making right now. This is our filler neck that we cut off. You see our complete length is about 11 inches to the end there. So on the straight run, we're about 7 inches of straight run on it. I'm going to end up cutting an inch or so off of this as our connection point. We're going to put the hose on the tank first. Make sure it's bedded all the way down. Pull that off and flip this clamp around. I did find a clamp. Cool thing is, that's an original VW clamp. You see that right there. Pretty dope. Alright, clamp is flipped around. Okay. You're on that neck. comes time to put that neck in, it's going to be a two-man job. I'll be holding this dude down while the kid's feeding it in from that side. Slight update on that cut. We end up cutting a very slight angle into it to correct the fact that that thing was hitting the roof. And it seems to me like it made a nice bit of difference in there in actual fitment. So that brings the angle down to where when my tube comes in, it's a much easier connection point there. So we're going to put that clamp back on it. I'm actually really happy with that. A lot better than we had before. We got that hose in there. We got our tube in there. It's time to mate the two. Oh, this might be a little more difficult. You gonna get in there and do it? I would need you to guide it towards that hole. You got to get that bottom lip on it. You see the very bottom of it? Go on, get her! Go on! Get in! Hold.
Might need to come back out more.
Yeah, how far am I in it?
Oh.
Right about there is where I need to be.
Alright. You want me to start getting the clamp on it?
Yes, sir. Put the clamp over it.
See this YouTube, don't bite off your fingernails.
Make sure it's straight down with the other one. Alright, I'm happy with that right there. You can tighten that dude up.
I want it a little bit straighter. Like that. Clamps on there, bro.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna get the breather on.
You want to bring that the tube into that? And get them slipped over one another.
That's that breather line on.
You got it snugged up?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And now you want me to push that grommet up towards you?
Please do.
Can you get it?
I'll get it once we lower the bus down.
All right. I'm gonna go pull the other side. Who's calling me? I ain't got time for shit. Okay. All right. All right.
You got that gasket in there. I worked it all the way around. You see the hole I punched there, holding my little breather line in place. And our tank neck is now installed in that. We got our gas cap right here. We're good to go there. We're good to go there. We're connected at all points now. That's it. Bay window tank install on a split bus.